You are listening to the Call to Action podcast, where we aim to inspire, educate, and inform entrepreneurs and self starters on tech and tips related to navigating this ever changing world. Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to episode 47 of the Call to Action podcast. I am your host, Shenae, and today we are having a fireside chat with two authors tonight. I have JD Edwards and also Shenae Chase. Before I bring our guests onto the show, I have a positive mindset affirmation that I'd like to share. And here is the positive mindset affirmation for episode 47 of the Call to Action podcast. I visualize my goal each day, and it is hence easier for me to reach it. Let me read that one more time. I visualize my goals each day, and it is hence easier for me to reach it. And I have more of those on planmindfully.com is where you can get those. And you can actually purchase your own set of printable positive mindset affirmation cards. And these are great for manifesting, good for putting on your vision boards, and also starting your day with some good positive energy. So go to planmindfully.com to learn more. If you missed episode 46 of the Call to Action podcast, as always, it is a must listen. My guests for that episode are Bambi Summers and Tim Radel. Tim is an author of two books, The Life of Olaf Wanelia in 2018 and Careening Humanity into Oblivion, Prelude to Debauchery in 2022. Bambi is a published author and was a great co host to have on the show with Tim. Take a listen to this clip from episode 46 of the Call to Action podcast.
My first book. And I mean, to be honest with you, I've been writing consistently in notebooks since right around, well, I wrote when I was in elementary school, I wrote when I was in high school, I wrote a little bit during college, I wrote a ton right after college. And I mean, really the formal, I'm doing air quotes, the formal stuff started within the past 5 years.
Okay. Okay. So now I was going to ask you a different question, but I'm going to come back to that question because you had me think of something else when you made a statement about you being kind of shy to release your book. So what would do you think or why were you shy about that? Was it fear of judgment or was it just nervousness? Like why were you afraid to release that first book?
You know, I think that there was probably a little bit of fear of judgment, but at the same time, if go back to what I just said with all this writing I've done, it's always been it's been selfish. It's been, it kind of off the cuff, not diary entries by any means, but a lot of the more abstract work that I've written is it's so personal that I don't know that I ever really would release it.
That's understandable. Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely understandable. I get it. Some things you're just writing just to get it out, but it's not something you want to share with other people.
Right. And I mean, some of it I think is pretty darn good. And I still don't think that I would throw that out into the world because I don't know how to explain it otherwise, Shantae, and I apologize for that. It's literally just this part of me that I think that there are some.
Again, you can hear the full episode on ctamarketing.biz. When you're there, click on podcast on the main menu to access that episode as well as past episodes. Now, as mentioned in the intro, I have two authors with me today, and they have a very unique story. I have JD Edwards and Shenae Chase. So, everyone, please join me in welcoming both JD and Shenae to the show today. So, guys, welcome back to the Call to Action podcast. How are each of you doing today?
I'm good.
I'm doing great, Shantae. Thank you for having us back.
Hey, thank you. I'm glad you guys are back. And we had a good show last time. So now, of course, you guys got different stories. You got JD, you released a new book. since we've
I did.
last talked. Yeah. Shanae, you've been writing since we last talked, right?
I'd call it more editing and mentoring. JD's
More
been
editing?
mentoring me
Okay.
a lot. My first book I wrote 20 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it
Wow.
was. Yeah, it was. Yeah, we'll get into that in the story of how it all of how it happened. But it's now been picked up by a publisher, so tenacity wins finally.
That is awesome. And good news. Congratulations on that. All
Thank
right. So
you.
before, oh, yes, you're very welcome. You're very welcome. Now, before we get into your stories, guys, we got to do the icebreaker. It's what I do on all of my episodes. And it just allows people to get to know you a little better, right? So, who wants to go first?
JD,
Ladies
please.
first.
Toss a
You guys
coin.
just both pass the baton.
Toss a coin.
Well, Shanae, he said ladies first.
Okay.
So, I'm going to pick you first, okay? Okay.
Thank you
So,
for calling
Shanae.
me a lady.
All right. So, Shanae, your icebreaker is which decade do you love the most? 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s?
Oh, definitely the 80s for its music.
Yeah, I agree. The 80s did have the best music. First thing that comes to mind, I say first artists that come to mind for me are Michael Jackson and Prince. But the music from the 80s, for me, like the influence actually came from other parts of the world, like Phil Collins, Duran Duran, and just some other artists. So, what did you like about it?
Well, I think it was our first insight to be able to hear people from overseas. And it still continues to this day. I mean, you go to nightclubs and Michael Jackson and Queen and all that are still, you know, out there being played. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. So JD,
Yes.
what is your superpower? That's your icebreaker for tonight.
Okay. My superpower is ADHD.
Wow. Okay. Please share. Please share.
Okay. Many people see it as a disability, but and sometimes it is. When you harness its power, it allows me to hyper focus, work on multiple projects at once, and maximize my creative potential. So even though I'm performing other tasks, I write chapters and scenes in my imagination. So when I sit down and write, the ideas flow freely.
Oh, wow. So you get this super hyper focused organization skills with that. That
Yeah, it
that's a
used to get
superpower
me in
for some people.
trouble.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah, because I would put a Hardy Boys book inside the Bible at church, listen to my dad preach, and
JD.
read. While my dad's preaching, I would read the Hardy Boys book, and I'd be able to remember what I read and tell my dad what he preached about. So that's my
Wow.
superpower.
That is definitely a super and probably would get you out of trouble just because you could do that with him.
Right.
Wow, guys. Thank you for sharing that. So now let's get to the heart of the show. Tell me about because okay, let's see, JD, you have a new book that you
I do.
released, but then also you mentored Shanae. So you guys have a lot to talk about tonight. So let's start with your book, JD, and then tell me about Shanae. You guys can both share like how did this whole mentorship thing happen?
Okay. Well, I was writing Indomitable. It's a book that I'd uh, had kind of in the back of my mind for 10 years. There's a big, long story. I don't know if we have time to get into that tonight about how I came to write it, but suffice to say, it took 10 years to collect all the research that I needed on 1838 to make this a believable book. So I got it finished and I edited it and I started sending it out uh, for people to review. And while I was waiting for the beta readers, I had my interview with you, and the fireside chat I'd listened to was Shenae's, and something she said about editing, it caught my attention. So I reached out to her and I said, if you need any help, I'd be free to answer a few questions. Here's my editing process. I talked in my last interview with you. I talked about my editing process.
Mhm.
So I shared that 12-point process with her, and Shanae says, "Well, I do have this one paragraph that I'm having trouble with. It's in an airport." So she sent me the paragraph, and I'd correct it. And then she says, "Well, here's a few more lines." So then she'd give me that, and
Sound like the
before you know it,
project is growing.
yeah, before you know it, I have a page, and then she says, let's submit this. Let's and let's do a certain amount per chapter. So then we did that, and that's when the first started to fly. Is when I tried to change her methods of editing.
Oh,
We don't like change.
But
so
it
the
all
fun
worked. But it
begins.
all worked. Yeah, but it all worked out, and I think the book was better for it.
Oh, definitely. JD has this fantastic vocabulary that he can just take a sentence and just change one or two words to make it pop. And it really interested me on how he did this. And I think it's his knowledge and his, as I said, his background and his vocabulary that does it. And anyway, we started off with his list of killer words and other passive words and things like that. Well, I highlighted those in the first chapter of the last page, and it was like chicken pox. All you saw were these pink spots everywhere on the page, and I'm thinking, oh my God, if people are reading this, then So anyway, with the process and all that, I sort of JD did the first chapter for me, and then I would do the second and try and change it to the way he mentored me in doing it, and then he'd send it back and make some more changes. So it just went back and forth, but each chapter I was getting better and better.
Mhm.
So, and then
Good.
I think the last 10 chapters, I think he edited himself because my mum had an operation, which I couldn't finish. So, yeah, but what he sent back, I probably took 95% because his speciality is fantasy and sci fi, correct?
Right.
Where
Hmm.
Mhm.
some of the words that he uses weren't romantic. and
No, not at all.
Yeah, because you write romance, and then JD is sci-fi, so that's an interesting combination there.
Yeah, so I had to wrap my head around Reginald's quivering member here, and I'm not. Yeah, I had never read a romance novel, let alone edited one. So it was a whole
Wow.
new experience for me.
Yeah, he said, and I laughed. He sent me a message. He says it went from something to what was it, Harlequin to um,
I
Mills and Boone very quickly.
Yeah, I said it went from a Hallmark movie to Harlequin, in just one chapter.
That was the love scene. But I must say, it was very like fade to black, fade to grey, but
Mhm.
not like my other books, which have a little bit more tempo in it.
Oh, oh yeah, yeah. No, no,
So,
no.
but yeah.
So you
So
didn't you
anyway,
didn't do those, JD, right?
I did
You did?
three
Oh, okay.
three chapters of each of
the Love
I
Mentalist.
Love Mentalist. Yeah, I forgot the name.
Oh,
The Love Mentalist one and Love Mentalist two.
yeah, because what I did after JD did this, I actually took the all my books down, and I decided that I was going to re-edit them in the way he showed me, and it was amazing how it it turned it around. Like I'm up to chapter 20 in the Love Mentalist, but it's made it like stronger. The story's still the same. Like JD said, I always had a good story, but I needed to tighten the storyline and the grammar and things like that. So that's what I'm
Okay.
doing now.
JD, let me ask you this because it's
Yeah.
interesting how you're a sci-fi writer and you're from America. And I know that we have a different way that we speak here in America. And then you have Shenae, who's in Australia, who probably has a different dialect of English. How does that translate? Like for you to take and edit her book, do you guys have any conflict on the use of words and phrases and how things are said here versus in Australia? And I'm sure, Shenae, you probably have something to say about this as well. But was there any static with that?
There was one, and it wasn't huge. I don't think. I think one benefit I had is that I'm a Anglophile. You know, I'm an American, but I just absorb British literature and I love it and watch British TV shows, comedies. That's My Son and Keeping Up Appearances and Faulty Towers, Red Dwarf, you name it. I like those type of shows. So I had a strong vocabulary when it came to British slang, and I kind of knew what some of the terms were. Sometimes if something confused me, though, I just go to a Australian dictionary and check it out. And at one point, Shenae, she talked about someone from New Zealand, and I don't know what term she used, like New Zealander or something like that. I said, Sinead, an Australian wouldn't call him a New Zealander; they'd call him a Kiwi.
Oh,
She's like,
really?
oh yeah, all
Yeah.
right. But then
Yeah, it was a
she talked about,
Maori.
yeah. But then she was comparing American football to British football. I guess Australian football. I follow British football. I'm a Manchester United fan.
Hmm.
And I knew what British football was, but I guess there's some differences, or I just didn't pick up what she was putting down when it came to the Australian football. I don't know where my disconnect was, but
Yeah, I see.
I changed it around, and she had to change it all back.
Yeah, but what you consider football is soccer to us, where
Right.
we have our own code of Aussie rules and rugby league and rugby union. So we have all these different types of sports with different types of football. So, and that's what I was referring to. And then when he changed like the ball from an oval ball to a round ball, I'm thinking, hang on, what's going on? But
Well, because Australia is, well, it's, I don't know if it's still British, but it was started as a British colony, just like America was, and we have soccer, which is a round ball,
Hmm.
and I assumed that Australia, because I watch Australian football too, and it's at least what I thought it was like soccer, just like British football, but
yeah, no,
the way Sinead was using it was different, so yeah, it
yeah,
just confused me.
yeah, we've downgraded soccer to soccer. So we
Okay.
have like, rugby league and Aussie rules are probably the top two. But I was talking about rugby league in that scene. So
Okay.
yeah, it is. If you can get a couple of and watch it, you'll see the difference. You'll be like Jake and have to learn it himself.
Yeah.
So, but it was really funny how he actually got it to a point where we were both happy with it. His wife read it and she loved it, and
Oh,
but
good.
there was a and then like she said, oh, chapter one, needs a little bit, of a oomph. So then I went back and like within about what 3 or 5 minutes, JD, I had this new half a page scene that I sent,
Right.
and she loved it.
Yeah. Part of the issue with that was that in the first few chapters, I was trying to be nice, you know, in my editing, and I stopped being nice after the first three chapters because I was getting fed up. But and I was trying to be nice, so I wasn't editing everything as much as I could have in the first few chapters, and it really showed compared to the rest of the book. So
Yeah.
I'm glad
See, I
I'm
was a
glad Sinead then took what she learned and fixed it.
Yeah, see, I was a narrator where JD is more dialogue driven. So we sort of had to find that balance
Hmm.
of because in romance it's just the genre. There seems to be more narrative and more adjectives and adverbs than what there is in any other genre. But so we had to find that level field. So and it took a while, back and forward, and swearing. I could hear JD's eyes roll all the way over here. But
Wow.
but once I committed to it, I just found it okay, fully understand. And then when I finished it and I sent it off to agents, we're like crickets, didn't hear a word from them. But I got 5 replies, acceptances from publishers. So, and it
Wow.
sort of started me thinking about the difference between publishers and agents. Like excuse me, I'll just read you. This is what one of the and I'll say one of the top 10 publishers in the world sent me, but I didn't sign with them. It said, "Your manuscript was brought to our attention at the latest editorial board meeting when we discussed the potential of its publication. Having read all the reports and taken note of the editor's opinions, we can confidently state that your novel was found to be emotive, dramatic, and immersive portrayal of grief and romance that will undoubtedly resonate with a wide audience. The reader would find much to absorb them in Jasmine's poignant story, allowing reflection and understanding to continue in earnest at some distance past the final page. We believe your work is very well structured, allowing the story to build suspense progressively and leaving the reader constantly hungry to continue reading and investing in the relationship of the characters." Now, that was just one, from the publishers, and it sort of made me wonder about, what do agents do? I mean,
Mm-mm.
I must have got 100 knockbacks, and I don't know how it was with you, JD, but some of them asked for 10 pages, and I'm thinking, how can you get immersed in a novel that's 550 pages in 10 pages? Like, I don't know.
Well, I have an answer for that.
Oh,
the
good.
the the agents look at kind of like what I do. They look for the telling. They look for data dumps. They look for something to draw them in. They look for the adverbs. They figure if they see that stuff in the first few pages, it's going to be like that throughout the rest of the book. So that's why it's so important to take, especially your first chapter or first few pages, and just make it pop. Start out with something fantastic, some action, something to wow the reader and draw them in. I mean, when I first wrote the Fairy Chronicles, I started out with a dream, and it was 20 pages of just slogging through memory. So when I changed it off of the murder of his parents. Now that will get people's attention.
Definitely. Yeah. You wanna know what happened?
And that's what
So
I've learned. So that's what I did with the last page, and I've also done it with the Love Mentalist book one, but I'd already done it with book two, so I can understand where he was coming from in that sense. But yeah, it just amazes me that there's so many agents out there that are bypassing these wonderful stories that publishers are picking up direct. So I suppose we save 10% in commission, but
yeah,
it just amazes me that there's so many writers out there trying to get a foot in the door. And I mean, it's taken me years. I mean, it hasn't been an overnight thing. I mean, I've written 5 books, and it wasn't until I rewrote the first book that it was accepted, and that was with JD's mentoring and editing skills.
That is awesome to both of you. Like JD, for you to even step in and help her with that. And now you're getting letters from publishers and you got some offers too, right?
Oh yeah, on the last page I got a few offers, and they're actually interested in the Love Mentalist, which is a big thing, because that's my baby. Of all my books, the Love Mentalist series is my baby. So I would like to see that go out there. I mean, especially because we've got the song in book two,
Yes, I remember
and
that.
yeah,
You
and
guys, yeah, I had it on my show.
I've been talking to the publisher, a marketer in New York, and I was discussing it with her, and I sort of sent her the file, and I said, if we can get someone famous to cover this, then we could do a simultaneous release. And she
Hmm.
happens to know somebody, so I don't know whether it'll go anywhere. But it's nice to think that at least they're looking at possibilities to help me as the writer, and yeah, and rather than just saying, okay, we'll publish it. There's a lot more to it than like self-publishing. They do so much more, which takes it off my plate. I don't have the time to do all the admin, the marketing, and all that crap.
Hmm.
So that was good for that. So, but yeah, look, I can't thank JD enough for opening my eyes. Like, I always thought my stories were good, everyone says they were good, but when it came down to it, they were wordy. And you know which is funny, because when we finished writing the book, it was only like 44 words less than what I started.
After all that editing, it's still
Yeah.
500 plus pages.
Yeah, but he showed me how to get rid of the narration with internal dialogue. So, and how to like do more direction with environment and you know, when you refer to something as it is something. So you know, whether it's a room or a card or a car, it has a name and it has a use in the story. So yeah, just little things like that. So but I'm going through now, as I said, with the Love Mentalist. I mean, it's been a bit of a struggle. I mean, one of the words that really I get stuck with is was. And if I highlight was, I have more was than hads and that's throughout the book, and it drives me crazy. But JD showed me how to replace those wases with stronger verbs.
Yeah,
So
not every was or had is
no,
bad, but when you have 5,000 of them in a 500-page book, it's a little overkill.
You know what?
yeah, so
Shenae, hearing you talk, I could hear how JD's skill could help with your editing. Because JD, I'm recalling our conversation from the show that you and I did together, and I was impressed when you were telling me about how you wrote the Fairy Chronicles, and how you said that you had a map that you could lay over the planet, and then like
Yeah.
it was, yeah, and I was like, dang, that's pretty cool. So I really like, I could see how you can take that and, make her story better by instead of it being, like you said, a narrative type story to a dialogue type story. Because to me, I think that pulls the reader in because now you feel like you're in it because you're thinking the words as you're reading it.
Mhm.
So I
Well,
could see that.
that's what I did with Indomitable. I wanted people to get drawn into the story, and everybody who's read it has said that they feel like they were transported back to 1838. They could see what was happening in their mind as if it was playing out in a movie, and that's
Wow.
exactly what I wanted them to experience. That's what I wanted the reader to feel is when they're reading that. When you know, when she falls through the ice, I want them to feel her cold, without saying that she's cold. So
Hmm.
you have to word that in such a way that the reader can experience it without telling them, this is what she feels.
Right, kind of leaving it up to their imagination, but you're
Yeah.
paving the way for them to walk down that path to meet you where
and
you want them
JD
to go.
and
Mhm.
JD has got that touch where he can do that. I've not known a lot of writers who can, but it's just amazing how he can, word things so you can actually see and feel them without actually telling people what they. Oh, it's amazing. I mean, I've got nothing but the highest respect for this man.
Well, thank you, Shanae.
Wow.
No, it's true. I mean, take credit where credit's due. I mean, look, we all do good things at what we do, but sometimes, I mean, JD took a chance on me spending 4 months working with me where he didn't have to. So, and it's those sort of people who, well, I'll call them unsung heroes because they do it for free. And like I've even tried to pay it forward with what JD's taught me with a few people, and I've found a lot of them very reluctant. And I'm thinking, oh my god, if they're reluctant, imagine how I was. Poor JD. So I paid it forward, but it's just that I hope he does has very huge success with his chronicles because I've read only a few of the first chapters that we're allowed to, and I find them very interesting. But I'm not into fantasy and sci-fi, which is crazy because my son writes fantasy, and and I just can't get absorbed. But when I read JD's, I could see it. So
Well,
yeah,
Mm.
speaking of that, uh, yeah, you know that Indomitable was picked up by Edit Engel, Indie House. Well,
yeah.
so was the last page.
Congratulations on that. Yeah,
Thank
congratulations.
you. So was Shanae's book, the last page. We're both now at the same publisher.
Yeah, but we never
Congratulations to the
told
both of
them.
you.
Yeah, but
That is
it's funny
great.
that we never told them that JD edited or meant it or whatever.
Right.
It was too. I didn't want to ride his coattails, and and it all turned out very well. So, and I'm quite happy with the fact, like with the contract that I got, I'm very happy that we keep a certain amount of rights, where a lot of other contracts we don't.
Hmm.
That's good. Can you just give just a little detail, because for people who are listening that are authors, explain what you mean by that, where you so you get to keep some of your rights or more of your rights with your publishing.
Well, they allow us to keep the movie rights, the television rights, and those sort of things. They take control of the publishing and the marketing and sort of that side of the thing. So when it came to, if it ever did become a movie or a whatever, we keep control of that.
Okay, so
So
if Dominable ever became a movie, or if The Last Page ever became a movie, like for Lifetime, for example, just throwing something out there, then you guys have still have control over that aspect of it, but the publishing company just does the book. Is that what I'm understanding?
Correct. And
yeah,
Okay.
if there's a book based on the movie, they have the first option to publish the book based on the movie.
Okay. Okay. That's good to
yeah.
know.
So, and they also, what I liked about it too, they also aren't strict. They allow you to have a certain amount of say in the editing in the final stage, which I liked, because one thing as a writer, I don't want to see my story changed because the publisher thinks it should be a different way. So that creative side we sort of have kept as well. So, and that was a big thing.
Yeah, it's a
That's
collaborative editing with
Yeah,
Editingle, which I really liked.
yeah, that's what I meant to say.
that's good. That's
I've got
good.
three. I got three cats sitting here looking at me. What are you doing? So, as you know, I'm at my son's place. So, anyway. But yeah, so but even the staff at editing, thank you, I can't say it, Editingle, have been really nice and really friendly and full of like compliments, um, and feedback, and yeah, and Michelle in New York has been fantastic. It's a great team to work with.
Just wait the until it gets published and they start giving you all the promotional material and the marketing, the handle that side. Talk about a weight being lift off your shoulders. Oh my god, I never knew that writing a book could be so fun until I went with Editingle. It was just incredible, the pressure that was lifted off of me, because now they're running with it. I can go focus on something else.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
and
writing more books.
Well, or editing more
Yeah.
books.
Yeah.
Th- this will be the first program, first person I've ever told this to, because I signed the contract today. Editingle has uh, given me a contract for the rewriting of the Fairy Chronicles, all four books.
oh,
And
Really?
congratulations! So
thank you.
happy.
Yeah. Congratulations. That is good.
So
Now let me ask you.
I'm going through there and doing the same thing I did with The Last Page. I'm going back 20 years ago to a book that, I wrote with a different voice, and I'm changing so much stuff. I'm looking at, like, I really wrote that. Oh my God. Oh, that's
That's
telling. Look at
awesome.
those adverbs, and I'm just tearing it apart, but it's still going to be the same story, but it's going to be so much better, and it's going to flow because it's going to have my current writer's voice, and I think it's going to be a wonderful, wonderful series once it's completed.
It's
Yeah. So my
interesting how you.
question,
I
wait,
was going
real
to say
quick,
it's
I was gonna
interesting.
ask you. I was gonna ask
Sorry.
JD. That's okay. So JD, are you gonna, when you have this one redone, are you also going to do an audio version for your audio listeners?
I'm trying to. I looked at the cost, and the cost is outrageous right now. I don't have the $2,500 to make it an audiobook.
Okay. Okay.
Once I can find a cost effective way to do that, I might do it. Now, uh, another other news, I am working with a distant cousin who read Indomitable, loved it, and has connections in Hollywood because he's friends with um, Tim Allen. I worked with him in the production and script writing and things like that. So he's working on this. We're working on a screenplay together, and Downable is hopefully going to be pitched to Hollywood sometime next year if we can get the script done.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
wonderful. Oh my God,
Look
it's
at
all happening.
you.
It's all happening. I
It
was
is.
just
Yes.
saying, yeah, I was just going to say that when JD mentioned about his writer's voice, it's so different to an editor's voice, like even though you're the same person.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, you know what I mean. And like as a writer, you want to see it one way, but as an editor, you think, oh God, what's this writer talking about?
And when
So,
you're editing when you're editing your own book, you almost have to take a step back and
yeah,
look at it as if it's not your book, and be willing to just tear it apart and you know
it, and that's the point. A lot of people, like it took me a while, but now sometimes when I pick up a book, I can't read it because all I want to do is edit.
Now you're seeing with a different eye now, huh, Shenae? Thanks to
I am
JD.
definitely seeing things with a different eyes. So, and at the end of the day, it's I can't read while I'm writing or editing because I pick up so many bad habits and it sort of stays in the back of my mind. So I can't read while I'm sort of, I mean, a full book. I can read, clips and things like that. So, but yeah, but the last page comes out in January, I think about the 20th, just in time for Valentine's Day.
awesome.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, so that's interesting. I can't wait for that. So a bit disappointed in like how long the process takes, but once you get into it, you understand that it does take that long. So all the
Yeah.
other writers out there, please understand that it's not going to be an overnight, write, publish on the shelf. There's so much process in between that goes through. So because I see a lot of people on Twitter, they just have these negative um, reactions to agents and publishers and different things and to tell you the truth, some of them get under my skin because I'm thinking, you've only been a writer 5 minutes. I've been at it for years. JD's probably been at it longer, but you've got to realize that it's I think it's the millennials. The millennials, they want everything now.
Yeah, the younger writers.
I
Yes.
have to I have to tell this, Shanae. I'm sorry, but I can't walk through a store and see a Danielle Steele book without thinking about Shanae.
Oh, really?
I don't know how many times I tried to change something. She said, "Well, that's what Danielle Steele does. Danielle Steele writes it this way. Danielle Steele this. Danielle Steele that." I said, "You're not Danielle Steele."
Yeah, you gotta have your own style.
Yeah,
And
because
Yeah.
and that was the problem. I grew up reading Danielle Steele books, and her first lot of books were very, very tightly written. But as she's become popular, um, they're more loose and wordy, like mine was.
yeah, and
So
I had the same problem. My favorite author is Terry Brooks, fantasy, and now I'm doing a reread of his entire 40 years of books, and I see where I picked up my bad habits.
yeah, and that's the problem. And I just sort of had to get my head out of because agents and that say always ask you, who do you or compare your work to other authors, and I always say Danielle Steele and Barbara Taylor Bradford, because that was how I write. But it's not, it's all changed over the years, what people read and how they write. So I had to get rid of of Danielle Steele out of my mind because hers is very, I don't find her as good a writer, sorry, Danielle, today as when she started off.
Well, you grow and you change, and that's
Yeah,
to be expected. Yeah, almost like being in a relationship. You grow.
or you get rid of
Yeah,
him.
Shanae, I wasn't going there.
Hey, I'm a love mentalist. I'm allowed to. I see so much. I mean, it's just like this Married at First Sight, and the girl says, "That's not what I ordered." And when she gets the husband, I'm thinking, it's doesn't matter what you ordered. You don't get served up a 3-course meal on your first go. But anyway, it's yeah. Sorry,
Men
I diverged.
men are always on their best behavior until that ring gets put on the finger. Then
Don't
they don't have
say
to try it. Then they don't have to try anymore.
that's not true,
That's
guys.
what they think.
That's not. Oh, that's okay. That's not always true. I can't speak for everyone else's husband, but that's not always true. I'll leave it at that.
That's in the top three of why people get divorced.
Yeah.
Wow.
It is. It is. I mean, people. Look. I shouldn't say that. I'm going to a wedding this weekend, and
Yes, you got to take good vibes to the wedding.
yeah. So I guess sometimes look, even though you know that they're not suited for one another, and it's going to be a short marriage, you keep your mouth shut. It's not your. It's not your life.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Because
Same
it
with,
may change. They
and
may
it's
change, and things may work out.
and it's the same with writing a book. You might tell somebody that it's not quite right, and then they will tell you, "Well, you don't know what you're talking about," blah blah. So, work, works in all walks of life. So,
Yeah. So, guys,
but
I have a
anyway,
quick question for you.
yep.
No, go ahead.
No, go on.
No, I was going to ask you guys just to go to another topic as far as something that writers can use. Do you have any advice or anything that you would share that would be helpful that you've learned in your process of editing, or working with an editor from your perspective, Shanae, and then JD
Oh
as an
yeah,
editor, just something you can share?
yeah. When in doubt, ask JD.
That was easy.
I have
It
to
is.
hide that.
You're
No,
going
I
to
have to
it
get
is.
hit up,
hide my email
JD.
address.
Right.
Look, there's certain things that you can, but just because you fix it once doesn't mean it doesn't need fixing again. That's the big thing that I've learned. Like, you've edited it once, and you go through on your second read through, and look, and I will reiterate that my books are 550 pages long, so sometimes I don't see something that I've mentioned before, where my beta readers have will pick it up, that sort of thing up for me. So just because you think it's perfect doesn't mean it's perfect. So that would be my advice. Like, get other people to read it and
That's
get
good
their
advice.
feedback, and not family, not family. I have a wonderful set of people here on, like, Bambi, Paula, Tracy, Nikki, Barry, who have all helped as far as reading my stuff, and they've come back with different comments, and they are all taken on board. So they might not be changed, all of them, but they're all taken on board, and I can understand from their perspective what they're thinking. And with the last page, they all had different views of why she was leaving Australia. Now that was interesting. Why
And
Jasmine
that was
leaving
after the
Australia.
edited version that you worked
Yep,
with JD on. That's what
yep.
they were beta reading.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And they all had
Okay.
different versions of why she was leaving Australia. And I mean, JD knows now. I mean,
Yeah.
he didn't know until he got into the story either.
But I did come close. I came very close to the ending. Guessed it.
Yeah,
I missed it. I missed one key point, but
yeah,
I think I nailed about 95% of the ending.
yeah. Well, that's exactly right. But I have a lot of plots and a lot of twists, and one thing I think I do very well is foreshadowing. And
You do.
yeah, and so it's not just one plot running through my books. I have like three or four or five, and you get to this and you think, oh my god. I mean, the last page. I'm not sorry. The Love Mentalist. I still have people arguing the about a 50-year-old woman and a 35-year-old man. Like, they still to this day, 3 years on, cannot agree on what's right and what's wrong. So, and it's a good book club book. So, because women thought, they couldn't have a relationship with a younger man because they thought it was, if they had sons, they thought it was a bit, in house, where
Yeah.
men
Kind of
where
weird.
men could date, yeah, well, but men could date younger women. So
Hmm.
but it was just a good story for the last page. But they just argue on it on what's right and what's wrong, and there's nothing right and there's nothing wrong about it. It depends on the two individuals,
Right.
whether they're in love or not. But that's what I'm saying. Like every book you read and you take from, people take away different things.
So, JD, thank you for that, Shanae. JD, what about you? What advice do you have from the perspective of an editor?
Take notes. Even if you don't know what information you'll use when you're editing, don't discard it. Put it off in something, because you never get rid of good story ideas, because you never know when you're going to use them again in another book or another chapter or a rewrite. I put all my notes in a program called Microsoft OneNote. It has different tabs and features, and I can go back and look for something that I thought about and then reincorporate it into another story. And it was invaluable with writing Indomitable. I mean, I wouldn't have written Indomitable without OneNote, because I had so many moving parts and historical biographies, who had how many kids when they were married. It was all over the place, and I couldn't keep it straight unless I took notes. So anytime I had a good idea, I just threw it in my notes and came back to it later if I could.
That's good. Cool. All right, guys. So this has been great. And wow, your story is interesting. It's really good to hear that you guys have both gotten published. JD, for you again. And Shanae, this is great for you and how you all just came together. And I do want to mention we're all friends on Twitter. And you guys connected on Twitter, right? To even get this project started together? Is that
We
how
Yeah,
did.
that's happened?
yeah. I mean, I've
It,
collaborated with a lot of people on Twitter.
yeah, I know.
Some you don't know, and some you will never know of. But I have a lot of good ideas that my mind is always thinking. This is why I suffer from insomnia. So I mean, JD's read a few of my stories, and he can see that it's there, but getting it down on paper in the right order is the challenge.
Yeah. And how do you reach out to somebody you've never talked to before in a DM? And you talk on Twitter, but
Hmm.
somebody you've never sent a DM to before, and you just poof out of the blue, like, hey, I heard you on CTA marketing, and here's some editing tips. What kind of person does that? I felt like kind of a creeper doing that, because because I'm like, I've never read her work. I don't know if she's edited it or what editing process she's used. I don't know if she's got an editor. It was a lot of assumptions, and I just kind of took a chance. Very well, I might get blocked or unfriended, or she might take the advice. We might talk about it. I don't know, but if you don't try, you'll never know, and that's the only thing you will ever miss in life, is those missed opportunities, is if you never actually give it a shot.
That's true, JD. That's true. And that's, with Twitter, like we're all a part of the writing community, which is how we all connected. But I think you have a good chance of, if you do DM somebody with some good advice, that they'll respond and not block you.
Except that, you know what, I friended like three people who friended me, so I followed back, and within 10 minutes, I had their book profile. Buy my book. You know,
See,
to me,
that's not
that's
attractive. That is not
nah.
attractive.
I'm
No.
Is
finding people are using Twitter as Instagram by putting up photos of themselves, or a dating site. A dating site. I changed my profile because I was sick and tired of getting hit on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what Twitter can do as well.
I won't mention the publisher's name, but there's one publisher in particular uh, that is notorious for doing that. As soon as you follow uh, one of their authors, you immediately get a DM from them saying, "Hey, thank you for following me. I think you'll enjoy this book. Please review it on Twitter. You can download it on
That's
Amazon. You
not
can
good
download it for
marketing.
free." So I used to block those people, but then I took their script and I revamped it to say basically the same thing, but about Indomitable. And every time I get a DM from one of those type of people from that publisher, I
Yeah.
send them back a DM with something that says exactly the same thing, but for Indomitable, telling them to check out my book. And I
That's a good
never hear back
idea.
from them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a good idea.
but I
Yeah,
do
no,
wish
Twitter for me
publishers.
is more for conversation. Like you can talk about your product, but to me, what I've seen, it's really more community based, especially with the writing community and just how people engage and uplift each other. That's what I've seen. That's been my experience with Twitter.
Yeah, to me, it's been a lot of tagging in that lately. Where I like the conversations where writers are helping writers. But what I would love to see, which is probably I'll never get to see, is I'd like to see agents say go through people's profiles and say, or their bios and say, look, I'm looking for new clients. How about sending me, the first three chapters? Like, why are we always chasing them? Like, I mean, that's probably our job, and I'm probably being, you know, trying to be happy looking on the happy side here. But I just think, agents can do more for their writers than what, I mean, look how many books Stephen King wrote before he got an agent. They just don't know. E.L. James, the same. You just don't know who
Yeah.
their
Mhm.
next client's going to be.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting that you all have to chase them down as opposed to them chasing you down because they need clients just as much as you all need someone to publish you, right? And to represent
Yeah,
you as yeah.
Yeah. I sent out three queries for Indomitable. The first person rejected me within, I don't know, a day, saying that, oh, it's just not the right fit for us, but you'll find another publisher who it will be a fit for. I hate that form letter. Uh, so I immediately went to Twitter. I said, "Well, so it begins." You know, the GIF of King Theoden saying "So it begins" from Lord of the Rings, and I talked about Indomitable. And that's when Michelle saw my post and said, "Hey, send it to us. We'll take a look at it." And that's how I got picked up. Was Michelle caught my tweet, not bashing the publisher, but just or agent, but just saying, I got my first rejection. Here's what the book's about. So after the book was published, a month after it was published, I got a rejection from another one of those publishing houses I sent the query to, and someone else still has never contacted me in 12 months. So it's I just see it as their loss.
Oh yeah.
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 I mean,
Because you guys are on your way now.
I sent out 100 queries, 101 to be precise. Half of them didn't even bother, and the other half were all generic. Not a perfect fit for me at this time, or I've got too many on my books, or this, or this, or this. At least they had a decency to reply. But what gets me is that they don't tell you the true fact of why they're turning you down. If they just gave you a little bit of a feedback and says, "Oh, look, we find it too wordy," or "We find, this needs to be changed," or give you some criticism. And I mean, I love
Mhm.
criticism. I love honesty. Just ask JD. But you take it on board and you use it, but you get nothing back. You get nothing back. So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting when with us moving forward, where we where we go.
Yeah. If ifs and buts are candy and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas.
Uh,
So,
hey,
guys, your books that are for sale, Indomitable is available on Amazon. Is that right, JD?
That's right. Hmm.
Okay. Okay. So make sure you send me the link so I can post that with the podcast. And
Okay.
then, Shanae, are you still selling the Love Mentalist or did you take that off of
no,
Amazon?
I took them all down and have are redoing them. The last page is being published in January. I'm
Okay.
hoping to send the Love Mentalists book one off within another 6 weeks. 8, 10, maybe. Then book two by the end of Christmas, and then First Wife's Reprisal, which was actually got quite a lot of recognition by publishers, not by agents, by publishers. But they were all hybrid contracts. Now, I'm not interested in a hybrid contract, but it was a big change in writing to write that story because a lot of it was based on true stories, except the killing and the defamation and you know all that getting back at women and men who jilted these people. But apart from that, it's complete. It's what it well, it's got romance in it, but it's not the same. So I hope to have that one out by May next year.
Okay. Okay. Well, when you get that published, send me the links. But in the meantime, as far as getting contact with you all, Shanae, share your contact information. So in case anyone has any questions or wants to contact you, how can they
Well,
find you?
at the moment, I'm only on Twitter. I don't have time for social media, so it's at Shenae Chase. But my website is getting done this year, so hopefully by then, people can contact me and sign up to my mailing list through there.
Okay. Thank you. And JD, how can we find you online?
I have everything on Linktree, so it's linktr dot uh, slash JD Edwards.
Easy enough. Easy enough. All right, guys. So I have one last question for both of you.
Okay.
And Shanae, I want you to go first.
Oh
And the
God,
question is any last words of wisdom that you want to leave with the listeners today?
I would say edit, edit, edit. I mean, honestly, I wasn't a big believer in it, but even though you think it's good, give your book to somebody you don't know personally and get feedback from them. If you say on Twitter, anyone want to read my book and give me feedback, you will get people, but ask them for honest feedback. Someone who won't say, "Oh, it was a good book," even though they're talking out your out. Oh, can't say that word. Um, but you know what I mean? You want honest feedback. And the only way you're going to get honest feedback is from a stranger who doesn't know you.
Okay. Okay. Good advice. All right, JD. So, what about you? What are your last words of wisdom to leave with the listeners?
I kind of build on Sinead's comment. Have a thick skin. You're gonna, if you get a person like me editing your book, I may not be as nice as I was to Sinead, and Sinead didn't think I was being very nice at first.
But it worked out in the end
But
because she's
yeah,
published now. So, that's definitely good. Yeah.
but yeah, I try to be honest, but with be kind at the same time. But not everybody is. So have a thick skin and know that your first effort isn't going to be gold. It never is. There's always going to be something in there you can change. So listen carefully and decide if their comments actually improve the story. Sometimes their comments are bunk, but it's always good to listen with an open mind and not just reject it right out of hand.
Okay.
And that's what I
Very good.
appreciated about JD, his brutal honesty. Like, I don't mind it. Yes, I might fight back, but but I accept and I truly appreciate honest feedback. Look, I'm one of those people. If someone says, "Do I look fat in these pants?" I'll say yes, because I don't want you to be embarrassed when you go out when other people mention it. So, and if I like that honesty, I want to get that honesty. So, yeah, I mean, I fought it, but at the end of the day, I don't want JD to say, "I told you so." But okay, you told me so. But
Never,
he did
never.
it in a nice way.
Yeah.
But you know what? He held out. He really hung in there with me, as I said, even though I could hear his eyes roll all the way from over here in some instances. But he was kind enough and calm enough to waver that storm and do it and help me get where I am today. So I'll never thank him enough for it.
I'm glad I could help.
Yeah, you helped. Trust me.
Wow. That's awesome. I love the love that's just being passed around the show today.
Oh,
You
thank
guys
you.
just makes me feel all warm inside, warm and
You know,
fuzzy.
well, when somebody deserves respect, they get it. So, good on him. I mean, I'm so happy that, it's taken him this time to have his books published, but, at the same time, he's done it the right way.
Yeah. 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 Well, that's good. That's good. Guys, this it's been a pleasure. You guys are awesome.
Oh, thanks.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us on.
Yeah, it's so fun, easy to talk to, and just I love when you guys share things because it not only helps me. One day, you never know, I might decide to write like a full novel or something. I don't know, but I know who to go to if I need
I'll write
if I need
it,
an
Jodie,
editor.
and edit it.
Right, I have beta readers. I mean, all kind of stuff, and I just learned so much doing the shows with you all. So I do appreciate you taking the time and being on the show with me and sharing this wonderful information because it's helpful. So, and I like to help other people, even if it's coming through me, with help with talking with you guys and you sharing it on the show. So, I mean, I do appreciate that.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, thank you. When you
Yeah.
do write that book, go ahead and try and turn it into an audio book, and you'll see what I mean.
Yeah, I know it can be pricey, but
Or
there's
maybe
other
when
ways.
Indomitable hits the big screen, I start raking in the millions in royalties. Then I'll be able to afford to do audiobooks.
Yeah, yeah, maybe that's it. But JD, have you looked at you can do a royalty deal? Have you looked into doing that with ACX?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, that's
I,
what
I
I
only
have.
I only looked at Audible.
Okay, Audible is ACX, but you can do a royalty deal where you would, instead of you paying the
Hmm.
narrator, then they would get a royalty off of the sales. So just
Okay,
take a look at that, and that may be a way that you can get that done with a really good narrator, but then also get your book out there in that format. So yeah,
I want Andy Serkis.
you know what? Actually, somebody I had on the show, actually, Tiffany, she got a narrator by sending her a tweet. So you
Huh?
never know. You
Yeah.
never know. Yeah, seriously. Yeah. So you never know. You might just try it. It may work.
Look, honestly, I actually brought up about the cover for my song for my book. And I'm not going to tell you who knows who, but let's just say if it comes off, I'll be very happy.
Cool.
Everybody knows somebody in the business, and there's always a
That's
way
right.
around things.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yep, yep. All right, guys. So, want to wrap up the show, and just before we come to a close, I do want to mention two of my favorite podcasters. One, of course, is York Campbell, and he is the creator of the Poetic Earthlings podcast. And you can hear his podcast at poeticearthlings.com. I have done some, I guess it's voice acting that I've done on his shows. So if you get a chance, go and check them out. They've been a lot of fun. And also, I like to mention another new podcaster. She was actually a guest on one of my episodes, and it's Tiffany C. Lewis. And she is the host of the Beta Reader Bits podcast. And you can listen to her podcast at betareaderbits.podbean.com. And also remember to visit planmindfully.com to get your printable positive mindset affirmation cards. And if you don't know, when you affirm something, you begin to stir the energies of the universe into action. And these are a tool to help you to bring positive changes into your life. Now, to all of the entrepreneurs, authors, self starters, and just everyone who is out there doing their own thing, remember the code. The journey begins when you take the first step. Courage, optimism, determination, and enthusiasm are the tools that will help you along the way. Until next time. Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Call to Action podcast. Make sure to visit me at ctamarketing.biz. There you can find articles for entrepreneurs and self-starters on tech and tips related to navigating this ever-changing world. Until next time.